You have got to be kidding me. Hey, I am Chuck the Bureaucrat, and if you're in the Air Force, you have probably heard that the Flyboys have put a stop to PCS moves and certain bonuses. And you know me, like as a bureaucrat, the second I heard that, I thought, something ain't right. First of all, the Air Force is making all kinds of sketchy excuses for this snafu. One Air Force spokeswoman said, well, the rising cost of PCS and the outdated costing models, that drove the funding gap. In another article, the Air Force says that the PCS and bonus cuts are because the Alabama legislature wants the Air Force to publicly state where they're going to put the Space Force headquarters. Come on, we know how to interrogate a bureaucrat. Why the heck would a military construction project that hasn't even had its location established yet be driving cuts to PCS and bonuses in the last few months of FY23? Now, one analyst did point out that in fiscal year 23, the Air Force got about $194 million less than they requested. That's true, but when I hear 3 different excuses for a mistake that's big enough to upend PCS moves, I know there's got to be more to it. And there is. Okay, for those of you who did not see my video on the old J-book trick, there is a very simple technique for getting information about how a federal agency has built their budget. Every year, the president requests funding for federal agencies using what are called justification books, or J-books. And the Air Force J-books are at the Air Force Financial Management and Comptroller website. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of this page, you'll see the whole list of Air Force justification books organized by appropriation. The one we're interested in is the Air Force MilPERS, because this appropriation has a specific line for permanent change of station funding. Now, before I show you what they did here, I want you to look at those 2 columns to the right, enacted and estimate. This is the president's request for FY24, so the information in that far right column is how much the Air Force was asking for next year. And the enacted column is how much Congress gave the Air Force to spend in FY23. I know. Nobody likes to look at tables, and to really understand what happened here, we're going to have to look at multiple fiscal years of these J-books. So instead, let's look at this in a bar chart. And now it becomes pretty obvious what happened. The Air Force didn't request the right amount of money for PCS moves. The gray bars are what they requested. The green bars are what Congress enacted. So in FY20, the Air Force asked for and got a little over $1.1 billion for PCS. In FY21, they asked for and got almost $1.2 billion. Same in 22. And now you should start to see a logical trend line for this. And then in FY23, they requested less than they requested in FY20. And what's weird is that Congress didn't just rubber stamp this. Congress enacted more money for PCS than the Air Force asked for. Now, I'm going to go one step deeper. I can't find exactly why the Air Force thought this was a good idea, but there is a summary table that breaks PCS travel down by the different types of reasons that people make these moves. And if you look carefully, you'll see that they cut operational travel between duty stations by $70 million and rotational travel to and from overseas by $33 million. So no, it is not rising costs. It's not the fault of the Alabama state legislature, and Congress didn't short them because Congress actually gave them more money for PCS than they asked for. It was a conscious decision that was made by the Secretary of the Air Force as early as February of 2022 when these J-books were due to Congress. This decision might have even been made as early as June of 2021 when the Air Force's budget was due to OSD. Give me a break. This was not a surprise. It was planned. And I'm not going to get into it, but the same story holds for the re-enlistment bonuses, the special duty assignment pay, and the aviation bonuses. Now, one of my regulars asked me if this is just one of those cases where some Air Force major made a fat finger mistake, and now, all of a sudden, a couple thousand airmen have to eat the bill. Probably not. I mean, that major has a colonel making sure that they stay straight. The colonel has a 2-star, the 2-star has the service chief, and then all of them have the Air Force Secretariat staff watching. And if the Air Force comptrollers are anything like the Army comptrollers, looking at you, Dave, this was a flashing red light on their dashboard. Multiple OSD offices saw it. The president's budget team would have seen it. Congress certainly saw it because they tried to change what the Air Force was doing, and they probably sent a formal request to the Air Force asking, "What the man?" So, by my reckoning, this one is squarely on the top leadership of the Air Force. And what really burns me about this is that any Air Force cadet knows that you have to accept responsibility for the decisions that you make. And that applies to the 4-star generals working in the Pentagon. I gotta go take a walk. And listen, in the meantime, watch this inspirational video about a young sapling that didn't let the harsh realities of the Pentagon get him down.